A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase. I really should be drinking something more interesting than water doing this. Hello everybody, and welcome back to my kitchen about a year after we were last here. I say we, obviously not me, but you. If you watched the last video I did here a year ago, you might have seen it since then, all broken in. Anyway, the last video I did in my kitchen was a What's in My Bag 2022 edition, and my gear has changed sufficiently in that time to make me think that it's worth doing a 2023 edition. You might remember that I made that video in my kitchen last year because I was showing my Shimoda 50 litre, can't even remember what it's called, massive bag full of equipment, obviously multiple bodies, multiple lenses with focal lengths ranging from like 16mm to 600mm. Just a ridiculous amount of gear, weighing over 13 kilos, if I remember rightly. And at the time, I was packing for a trip to Antarctica. The thing is, in the last 12 months, for every trip that I've done since then, I've noticed that if I take a fraction of that gear, I'm just as happy with my photos. Obviously, I don't get photos at all those different focal lengths, but even in Antarctica, if I look back at my telephoto photos, I'm not nearly as drawn to them as I am the photos taken at more conventional focal lengths, meaning that I don't need to take anywhere near the amount of gear that I used to. It used to make me feel very pro carrying a massive bag full of camera equipment, but the more I've thought about it and the more time has gone on, I've realised how much the paradox of choice affects me. And there are lots of quotes flying around about how choice is the enemy of creativity, things like that. But ultimately, I noticed most that whenever I was in a location with boatloads of gear, I'd spend more time looking at my gear than I would what to take photos of. And not everyone will be afflicted by that, but I have been, and I've reflected on that an awful lot over the past year, and it's led to me having a much smaller setup for the vast majority of the photography that I do. So this is my Peak Design 10 litre sling that you'll have noticed in lots of the videos that I make. Now, to be honest, if I didn't make videos, I'd have gone for one of the smaller ones. This is the biggest one that they do, but it's fantastic. It's bulletproof. I'm not sure it's bulletproof, but you know what I mean, hard wearing. Very well made, and it's got compartments for everything I need it to have compartments for. It does fit my laptop, this bag, just about. It's a squeeze. I have a 14-inch MacBook Pro, and this does fit it. But if it's also full of camera gear, then putting my laptop in is, well, I worry about the laptop snapping, to be honest. And in my experience, laptops work best when they're not snapped. However, not to worry for me, I know you weren't worrying, but I found a solution to that, things like airports, which is my Peak Design Everyday backpack from about 6 years ago. So this bag, OG subscribers will remember, is a camera bag that I bought, 2017, 2016, something like that. And I love it as a backpack. I hate it as a camera bag. Now, I might be alone in that. I know lots of my friends really enjoy using this bag as a camera bag, but I didn't get on with it. What it does work brilliantly for, though, as you might be able to see there, is it fits this wonderfully. And you're probably thinking, well, what the hell is the point in that? Well, particularly when I'm going through airports, the 10 litre sling doesn't have room for absolutely everything that I would like to take in my carry-on. Now, some airlines allow you to have 2 pieces of hand luggage, some airlines only allow 1. And for the ones that only allow 1, this is a perfect setup because it allows me to stick my sling in this bag, but also have room at the top for all the other stuff I need, and crucially, a pocket at the back dedicated to housing my laptop. So I've been absolutely made up with that solution. So this everyday backpack has come out of hibernation, and it now has a new task in life, purely to carry my other bag. However, when I get out of said airports, this has done me brilliantly for, well, a lot of the last, when did I buy it? I had it 7 or 8 months, I think. Now I've made one adjustment to this bag, which is to add a stabilizer. So tucked away behind here, I've used one of the straps that came with my everyday backpack, and using a Peak Design anchor, I have engineered a solution to stabilize this bag so it doesn't move around too much when I'm cycling or if I'm climbing a mountain, whatever. And that works great. I would say though that I wouldn't want this bag to be any more than 10 litres because I'm the sort of person that if I have a 100 litre bag, I'll fill it. And so if I had a 15 litre version of one of these, I'd fill it and then it would get too heavy for one shoulder, probably. Now I'll just tuck this back in the side. It's not an ingenious solution, I don't think. I think Peak Design could probably do a better job themselves, but since they haven't yet, that's what I've come up with. Anyway, enough about the bags. Let's have a look inside, shall we? I would have a beer, but it's 10:33 on a Tuesday morning. Anyway, the camera, Bombshell, Leica M11. So as you might remember, I bought this a few weeks ago and I was telling you that I was going to send it back immediately because I thought it's just ridiculous. The thing is, I came to realise quite quickly that I'd reviewed this camera, thought about it non-stop for 3 months, bought it, and then to send it back would have just been, I think, a bit silly. I mean, obviously, it's a very, very expensive camera, but it was a business expense, which basically means I didn't pay retail for it. And looking at the second-hand market, these things hold their value so well that if I was to use this for a year or two and then sell it, the difference between what I bought it and sold it for is basically a rental cost. And to quench my curiosity, I thought, why not rent the camera for a year or two and see how I get on. So that's what I've decided to do. And I also got a boatload of Amex points when I bought it, so that was a plus. Now, as I mentioned, I think in my review of this camera, this is not a camera for everyone. I'm not entirely sure that this is a camera for me, but I'm curious enough about it to find out. So that's what I'm going to do. If you don't know much about this camera, I'll link my review to it somewhere around here. And if you watch that, you'll probably be even more surprised that I bought it because I did have some scathing comments, I think, about this camera. But like I said, I've not stopped thinking about it since. So this year, I'm going to be spending an awful lot of time using this camera with the 50mm Voigtlander Apo lens, which as far as I can tell from the reviews that I've read, is amazing quality for the price, certainly compared to Leica lenses. So very excited about that. Now, I did buy another lens to use with this camera. I went with a Leica 28mm Elmerit, so it's an f2.8 lens. Absolutely tiny. If I take the lens hood off, let me show you this. So yeah, the 50mm is f2, this is f2.8. With this kind of setup, I'm not looking for fast lenses. I'm going to have an absolute nightmare manual focusing as it is. So I didn't want fast lenses, I wanted really good quality lenses, and that I think is what I've got for my, my long-term experiment. So that'll be a feature of the channel for a while. Normally in these videos where people talk about what's in their bag, they're talking about stuff that they've used for ages. They're like trusted equipment. Clearly that's not the case with this one, but I'm excited to give it a go, and the bag's trusted. Anyway, so yes, that's that. Some Leica stuff to try over the long term. Now, I will also always have the camera that I'm filming on, because I'm always making YouTube videos. And the camera that I'm filming on is the Sony a7 IV. And it's a camera that has impressed me immensely since I've had it. The Achilles heel is the viewfinder, the electronic viewfinder. But then again, you can see the stuff that's in your frame. So it's just that it doesn't look very detailed compared to other viewfinders. Does that matter? I don't know in practice really. But on that camera, pretty much always is my Sony 24-70 f2.8 Mark II GM. These names. Fantastic lens, like all 24-70s, it's a bit boring, but brutally sharp, and has never let me down yet. I say that like I've had it years, I've had it about 6 months, but great lens. Now, if the 24-70 is not on my camera, I will be using the 20mm f1.8. I've had this lens quite a long time now, and I love it. It's the lens that I use for all my indoor videos in my office, and obviously nighttime, low light, works really well. So the a7 IV is primarily for video for me, but I will also be using it for stills alongside the Leica. Say for instance I'm somewhere where I need 35mm or I need 70mm, then I'll be using that setup. And actually it's only been recently that I've started using the a7 IV for stills. I took it to Denmark as pretty much my only camera, and I was using it for video and stills there, and I was blown away by the stills. Obviously not quite as much detail as this, my Sony a7R Mark IV, which has got 61 megapixels, but the difference in the vast majority of applications is negligible. So yeah, this is going to be like my third body, because the cost of this for the condition it's in, there's no point selling it. And yeah, that's how I'm going to go. Right, let's get some of this stuff out, shall we? It's a much smaller bag than I've used historically, but it still has potential to be a bottomless pit. I'm also carrying filters, which only really work for the 24-70, but these are case filters, and they're fantastic, all color-coded. I only really use the blue one, which is an ND8, I think. Yeah, pretty much always just for video. Sometimes I use the polarizer for stills, but predominantly it's the ND8 for video, so that comes with me. A little GoPro tripod. There's normally a GoPro in here as well, which I'll use with a chest mount, as you'll have seen many a time, but I don't know where that is actually. And then my DJI mic has a little case. Obviously I'm using one at the moment, and the receiver is on top of the camera, but that is it's a clever bit of kit. And then, oh, finally, I've got this little contraption which works well for my phone. Put my phone in there, and then I've got a little tripod. And speaking of tripods, I try to carry this little one with me everywhere I go. Sometimes I do need a bigger one, and if I need a bigger one, if I'm going into nature, for instance, and I'm filming a lot in places where there's not kind of a wall or something to stick this on, then I'll use my, what's that called? Three-legged thing, Brian, maybe? But yeah, this and a few batteries is what I take with me now on photography trips. Minus this, actually. I don't often take the A7R4 out with me now. That's just like a backup. But all this stuff, in fact, actually, a lot of the time I don't even take the 20mm. I just film everything on the 24-70. So this stuff, and actually sometimes I don't take the GoPro or the glass of water. This stuff. So yeah, obviously this video is kind of about gear, but it's more about my gear philosophy going forward. It's not much of a philosophy really, it's just taking less stuff than loads of stuff. So we'll see how we go. As I said, most people speak from a place of experience when they're doing what's in my bag videos. This is the start of a bit of an experiment. So we'll see how long it lasts. But anyway, thank you for watching, and a big thank you to the sponsor of this week's video, Squarespace. So Squarespace, as you know, is a fantastic tool for all photographers, as these things are. And to tell you the truth, having a website, I think, is more important than any of this stuff when you're a photographer. And being able to showcase your work online in the way that you want to show it is an amazingly powerful tool, and Squarespace has so many different templates to choose from to help you do that. You don't need any technical knowledge about coding. Squarespace does all the resizing for you. It's super simple to design, lots of it is drag and drop. And so whether you want to design a blog, or you just want somewhere to show your portfolio, or maybe you want an online store, Squarespace is a fantastic and simple solution. So if you'd like to try it out, and I highly recommend you do, just go to squarespace.com to start your free trial. And after that, if you would like to make a purchase, just go to squarespace.com/James and you'll get 10% off of your first purchase. So a big thank you to them, and a big thank you to you for watching me in my kitchen talking about cameras and bags. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next week.